UFC 294, Volkanovski vs Makhachev takes place this weekend. I'm going to be going through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, and giving my prediction and breakdown of every single matchup on the card, as well as talking as like some of the favourite people that I have, like the ones that I prefer pick-wise, and some like guys that I like more as underdogs, all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to start off with the first prelim, Sharaputdin Magomedov versus Bruno Silva. Look, I'm going to take Sharaputdin Magomedov, but I don't like that I'm picking him. Like, he is so unproven. He's not fought in the UFC before. He's 11-0 and he does look good in his other fights, but you just can't trust these fucking opposition that he's fighting. He's fighting absolute cans. And that's why you just can't trust it. So I'm going to pick him to win. I'm going to pick him to win probably by TKO because Bruno Silva is really inconsistent. After that Alex Pereira fight, he has kind of fall off a little bit. He got dropped by GM3. He got kind of dealt with by Brendan Allen. But he did look good a little bit in that fight. Like, he hurt Brendan Allen too, but he got hurt back. He's just become a little bit chinny after that Alex Pereira fight, which is something I don't like against a guy like Sharaputdin, who hits pretty hard, is pretty accurate with the punches, and is going to like just tag you up on the feet. So I'm going to be going with Sharaputdin Magomedov. He's fought, like, the level of opposition that he's fought is terrible, which I don't like, but he does look pretty good and he's smoking everyone. So you're going to have to go with him here. So I'll be taking Sharaputdin Magomedov. I'm going to go with a second round TKO. I think Bruno Silva is actually going to have quite a bit of success, but Sharaputdin's going to catch him. He's going to be quicker. He's going to just be more powerful, and Bruno Silva just isn't going to be able to deal with the shots either. So I'll trust in Sharaputdin, but I don't honestly have that high hopes for him in his career, to be honest. Okay, we move on to the next prelim, Viktoriia Dudakova versus Jinh Frey. This one's a pretty easy one to predict. Viktoriia Dudakova should win this fight clearly by decision. She's getting given a layup here. I can't fucking speak. She's got a layup fight here. Jinh Frey, old, not good, terrible record, not a good fighter. Viktoriia Dudakova, unproven, but actually looks pretty solid. And unlike with Bruno Silva, who's actually a good fighter, Jinh Frey's terrible at fighting. She lost her last fight before that. She fought like Vanessa Demopoulos, lost. Like, I just can't trust her to do well here. Viktoriia Dudakova has somewhat promise. In her last fight against Estela Nunes, she did win that due to injury, so that's a bit iffy, but she looks pretty solid. I'm going to be picking her to win this fight by clear decision. Maybe Jinh Frey will take a round, so maybe like a 30-27 on 2 scorecards, and then one judge gives it 29-28. But a clear win for Viktoriia Dudakova is what I'm predicting here. We move up the card, Nathaniel Wood versus Mohammad Naimov. I'll be taking Nathaniel Wood in this fight. I think he's just so much more of a technically better fighter, and I think he's probably just going to win across the distance and win a clear decision. Mohammad Naimov, in his debut, he fought Jamie Mullarkey upper weight class on short notice, and he was getting pretty soundly just outstruck in that fight. And that's by Jamie Mullarkey, who just struggled with John McDessie and probably got given a robbery decision, if we're being honest. So I'm going to go with Nathaniel Wood. He looked really good in his last fight against Andre Fili. Looked pretty good. Before that, he's had some solid performances. And he's just a lot more reliable than Mohammad Naimov, who, he was getting just outstruck by Mullarkey. And then the only reason he won that fight is just because Mullarkey ducked in for a takedown, brought his hands down by his hips as he did it to like fake a level change. And then just came up and got chin. So he does have the power to put away Nathaniel Wood, but I think Nathaniel Wood is a hell of a lot technically better than Jamie Mullarkey. So I'm going to have to go with Nathaniel Wood here across the distance, mixing the striking, mixing the grappling, just out landing and just out techniquing Mohammad Naimov across the distance. We move on. Mike Breeden versus Anshul Jubli. I'll be picking Anshul Jubli in this fight. It's another layup fight. It's another easy win that they're giving him. He looked really good on Road to the UFC, the lightweight finale. And now they're giving him the king of the cans, Mike Breeden, who's coming off a loss to Terence McKinney, and that was in August, by the way, so 2 months later. Don't like that either. But Mike Breeden is the guy that just gets given to lightweight prospects when they need a win. So he's going to lose this fight. Anshul Jubli is pretty solid. He's got grappling, he's got striking, he's got power. Mike Breeden's pretty much got nothing for him, in my opinion. So he should be dealt with pretty soundly in this fight. I could see Anshul Jubli getting a finish, but if Mike Breeden can tough it out, he'll probably go distance. But in that McKinney fight, he just got froze up and just didn't even throw back. So I'll go with Anshul Jubli by TKO on the ground, or maybe a sub, but I think he's going to get this fight done pretty comfortably, and he should win. We move up the card, Abu Azaitar versus Sedriques Dumas. I'll be picking Sedriques Dumas in this fight. He actually looked pretty solid in his last fight, even though it was against Cody Brundage, so that means kind of nothing. It's pretty unreliable to fight Cody Brundage and look good. Abu Azaitar hasn't fought in ages. He's inconsistent, and I don't think he's actually that dedicated to fighting. So that's the reason why I'm picking Dumas. I think he's going to get a TKO. I just don't rate Abu Azaitar that much as a fighter, and also he hasn't fought since like 2021 or something like that. I don't think he's dedicated to the game. I think Sedriques Dumas is actually like working at getting better at MMA. So when you got one guy who I don't think gives that much of a fuck about it, and you got one guy that actually like appears to be training in their career and focusing on the sport, I got to go with that guy. So Sedriques Dumas should win this fight. I think he'll get it done by finish as well. Submission I could see happening, but I think a TKO is more likely for Sedriques Dumas. We move up the card. Javid Basharat versus Victor Henry. I'll be taking Javid Basharat in this fight. I don't like the odds on this. He's a bit too wide of a favourite because Victor Henry is actually a pretty solid fighter. He looked really good against Tony Gravely in his last fight. It looked pretty solid. But Javid Basharat, the Basharat brothers, are just too good. I think they're just technically so superior. And I'm just going to back them to do well in their careers, and I think they're both going to become ranked. Javid Basharat, he fought Mateusz Mendonça earlier in the year and pretty soundly beat him over the 3 rounds. I think these guys have a style, though. Like, you might say, oh, they're not getting finishes, but they've just got a style where I think they just soundly beat you rather than really, outright smoking you. Obviously, Farid Basharat got a submission win against Clayton Rodriguez recently, but before that, he lost, he beat Damon Blackshear across the round. These guys, a lot of their fights go distance, and they just do enough to, kind of win soundly, and I think that's going to be the case, and I think they're both going to become ranked. Victor Henry, very solid fighter, but I just don't think he's got that, real technique. I don't think he's got that, he's just not as good, I don't think, as Javid Basharat. So I'll be taking Basharat in this fight. I think he's going to win a unanimous decision. 29-28. I'll give Victor Henry credit. I think he'll win a round just by being a little bit crafty and just doing a bit more and finding a way to land the better shots. But overall, I've got to go with Javid Basharat in this fight. Move up to the next fight. Muhammad Yaha versus Trevor Peek. I'll be taking Trevor Peek in this fight. Look, I'm not that well researched on Muhammad Yaha, I'll be completely honest. And when Trevor Peek's fighting, he's never a confident pick. But I'll be picking him to win this fight. I think his awkwardly wild, crazy stand-up style is going to work enough against Muhammad Yaha, who, although is probably technically better than Peek, got a bit of a questionable chin. He got dropped in his last fight on some UAE promotion, and I just can't trust those shows either. We saw it with Hussein Askabov. He came in undefeated, 23-0, and then lost to Jamal Emmers. Is Trevor Peek as technically good as Jamal Emmers? No. Is Muhammad Yaha, though, as good as Hussein Askabov? Probably not either. So I think these, I just don't trust some of these Abu Dhabi shows. I think these are a lot of money going in to just promote certain guys. They probably pay fighters a lot to fight them. I think there's a lot of padding of the records going on in these kind of promotions. So I think Muhammad Yaha is going to be looking a bit questionable. I don't think he's going to be too good. And I think Trevor Peek's awkward stand-up style with a lot of power which he possesses is going to just do enough problems. I think he's going to get Muhammad Yaha into a sort of brawling scenario. And it's hard to brawl with, Trevor Peek. Chepo Mariscal, in hindsight, actually is really solid. I know he pretty much whooped Trevor Peek in that fight, but Chepo Mariscal is actually a pretty good fighter. So I don't hate that. And that, even though it was up at lightweight, I don't hate this, though. I think Trevor Peek's actually... Or is it featherweight? It's lightweight, so yeah. So lightweight fight, Trevor's going to have the power advantage. He's going to be just that wild kind of fighter. And I'm going to back him to get it done, to be honest. We move up to the prelim headliner, Mohammad Mokaev versus Tim Elliott. Look, Mohammad Mokaev is not a reliable guy to put your money on, so I would not be betting this fight at all. If you told me you had to bet, there's 13 fights on this card. If you had to tell me to bet 12 of them, this is probably the one I'm not picking, because this is honestly the one where I'm like, there's no point betting the favourite. Like, look, is Mohammad Mokaev going to win? Probably. Tim Elliott, out of his prime, didn't look the best in his last fight. Mohammad Mokaev rising up, he's like young, but in his last few fights, he has a tendency of like, maybe he's just not trying, I doubt it, but he has a tendency of making fights way closer than they should be. I don't like how close he made it with Jafar Filo or even Malcolm Gordon, who got like smoked by Jake Hadley, who isn't that good in my opinion. So I just don't rate Mohammad Mokaev that highly as of right now, but he's got room to grow. He's younger, so I'm going to be backing him to be making the rapid improvements. I think we can pretty safely say where Tim Elliott's going to be at. He's going to be declining. He's not going to be as good as he was in his last fight. He's like in his mid-30s at flyweight. Been around for ages. But with Mohammad Mokaev, it's kind of like you just got to assume he's getting better because he's young, because he's like unproven, he's climbing up the rankings. You just got to assume that he's making those leaps, and I think those leaps are just going to help him get a solid decision over Tim Elliott. I think he's going to probably outstrike him on the feet. He's going to handle that awkward style. I don't think he's going to get affected by it too much. And then he's going to be pretty comfortable in the grappling. I think he's going to have a wrestling advantage. Elliott might have some crafty stuff with the jiu-jitsu, but I don't see it going well for him. But as a minus 600 favourite, there's no point to be betting on an unproven Mohammad Mokaev. When Tim Elliott has a tendency of doing some things, he cheated against Ulanbekov. He won that fight, beat Ultimariano, but didn't look the best. So look, Tim Elliott isn't that good anymore, but Mokaev I also don't rate overly highly as of right now. But we move up to the main card. Said Nurmagomedov versus Muin Gafurov. This is another one I'm pretty confident on. Said Nurmagomedov should win this fight. I think he's going to get a decision, but he could finish this fight too. Muin Gafurov lost pretty clearly to John Castaneda in June, I believe it was. I don't know if he's fought before that, but just off that fight, John Castaneda definitely not the level of Said Nurmagomedov in my opinion. Said's recent loss against Jonathan Martinez doesn't age badly at all. Martinez just smoked Adrian Yanez. I do believe that Said Nurmagomedov is actually ranked caliber. I think he should be in that. Well, if Yanez is still ranked, then he should definitely become ranked with a win here, to be honest. And in that Martinez fight, razor close, almost won, and was giving Martinez a lot of problems early when he's quick. Said, you might think of him as a wrestler because of the Nurmagomedov name, but his striking and his dangerous kicks, he's got spinning back fist, which I like. He's just a much more explosive fighter on the feet that's just got more capabilities, in my opinion, to be able to land better shots, to be quicker, to be able to succeed in the grappling exchanges too. Muin Gafurov really didn't show me all that much in that John Castaneda fight to impress me and go oh, maybe that was just a one-off performance or something. He just didn't look all that. John Castaneda I don't rate too highly either. And again, Martinez lost not that badly, had him in a lot of trouble. And I think you can definitely... I scored that fight live for Said. I think a lot of people did too. So again, I'm not going to rate you less for a loss to a top, in my opinion, 10 guy. I think you could put Martinez as a top 10 guy. So I'm picking Said Nurmagomedov. Method of victory is where I struggle. Because Muin Gafurov is tough. Said doesn't finish heaps of people. He was on I think he got a few finishes a couple times last year, but he beat Sedriques Romanov in a fight which he was actually losing. Somehow Sedriques got released from the UFC. I don't know what that was about. But he can wrap up subs. I don't see him getting a TKO. He could wrap up a sub, but I'm going to go with a decision. I'm going to rate Muin Gafurov's toughness enough. I think he's going to get through. But Said's just going to land the better shots and pick him apart 30-27 decision for Said Nurmagomedov. We move on to the next fight, Ikram Aliskerov versus Warley Alves. Ikram Aliskerov should smoke him in this fight. He's going to do bad things to Warley Alves. Look, there's just a difference in skill. There's a difference in power, a difference in speed, difference in wrestling ability, and ultimately just a difference in where both of these guys are at in their careers. Ikram Aliskerov coming off a massive debut win. He's got hype behind him. He was booked to fight a ranked opponent in Naimov, which I wasn't going to pick him to win, but look, the Phil Hawes fight, let's talk about that. He chinned Phil Hawes, but he was struggling early. Like, he didn't look amazing early, but Warley Alves hasn't fought since January, coming off a pretty bad loss to Nicolas Dalby, where he got beat up pretty soundly, got his eye swollen up, all of that, and nose probably got broken as well. Ikram's got the power. Also, Warley's a welterweight. Ikram's a true middleweight, who gave Hamzat problems in the grappling before he got KO'd. I don't like the fact that Ikram's only hype is really coming from the fact that he did lose to Hamzat. Like, they're like, oh, he stuffed Hamzat's takedown. So, like, cool, he's got good defensive wrestling, but has he done anything to people, like, offensively? Like, am I going to pick him to ragdoll Warley Alves? Maybe. Maybe not as well. Like, I might just pick him to KO him. I think that's going to be my pick. I'm going to go with Ikram by KO. He is quick, and he does have really good shot selection and shot placement. Like, he landed that clean 1-2 on Phil Hawes. Landed both punches on the same side of the chin. Like, he did really well in that fight to get that first round finish. But Phil Hawes has been historically a guy that just gets finished by people that aren't even like Roman Dolidze finished him on the feet. Roman's not like a massive power puncher, elite striker in any way. I know he was on one leg because he fucked up his knee before that, but I don't rate Phil Hawes highly. I don't rate Ikram that highly yet. I think he can definitely become ranked caliber because his defensive wrestling is so good, and I'm going to assume he's got solid offensive wrestling. So after this fight, I want to see him versus a ranked opponent because, like, I can't be fucked with these guys waiting around. Like, just book him versus a ranked guy. But I think he's just going to beat up Warley Alves, and I think he's going to TKO him inside the first 2 rounds. I'll go with a early second rounds TKO. Warley Alves is pretty tough. I think he went distance with Nicolas Dalby. But yeah, Ikram, a lot better. It'll be interesting to see if him and Hamzat have any sort of interaction. Obviously, those two have actually fought in the past. I assume they did that deliberately, especially putting him against Amavov, like a ranked opponent. I think that was pretty deliberate, but ultimately, gotta go with Ikram. We move on to Johnny Walker versus Magomedov Ankalaev. I'm picking Johnny Walker. This is the big one. This is the upset. This is the one which I'm manifesting into existence. Johnny Walker is going to KO Magomedov Ankalaev in a dumb and stupid way, and it's going to be amazing. Look, Ankalaev is technically better than Johnny Walker in, like, literally all areas. His wrestling's better. His jiu-jitsu is probably better. His striking offense is probably better. He's a more fundamentally sound fighter. He's more technically better, like, all of the above. But his defensive striking, questionable, and he's also less athletic and just less explosive with less finishing ability. Walker's got the power and the athleticism, and I think that's going to be able to help him get this one done. Look, if you look at the Anthony Smith fight with both of them, actually, no, not with both of them. Anthony Smith versus Johnny Walker. Walker was attacking the legs. He had Anthony cooked with the legs, and Smith even said, I can't find my jab, I can't find my range. He was struggling in that fight, so much to the point where he had to resort to trying to tell Johnny Walker that he was attacking his family. So that was really impressive. Look, Ankalaev dominated Smith pretty comfortably too, but the fact that Anthony Smith, who's a crafty vet who's been around, said he just couldn't find anything on Johnny Walker, who's going to have a massive reach advantage over Ankalaev, and who has power in everything he throws. I can just see Walker just throwing jabs out there, throwing the crosses, like throwing out some check hooks if Ankalaev kind of comes in with a big shot. Look, can Ankalaev finish Walker, who has a very questionable chin, let's be honest? Yeah, Ankalaev could chin Walker. Could he probably just hold him down for the whole time? Probably. Make a dead decision out of it. Like, these are things that could probably happen and are probably pretty likely to happen for Ankalaev. But I'm going to just pick Walker. Like, I think I can just see something dumb happening. Like, you just get those vibes. Even, like, Strickland Adesanya, I said that Adesanya wasn't going to finish Sean and he was going to give him problems with just an awkward style. And it happened. And obviously I didn't pick him to win, but I thought that something weird was going to happen, and it did. Obviously, I should have listened to my pick. I should have listened to my instinct, which I'm going to do here. I just think Walker, with the athleticism, I think he's going to be able to stuff takedowns pretty well. I think he's going to have the ability to stop some takedown attempts of Ankalaev. And when he does stop the takedown attempts, I can just see him hurting Ankalaev with just some big punches. Like, I can see him throwing some hammer fists and stuff on while Ankalaev's trying to attack a single leg, or throwing some elbows and just like cracking him with like an elbow as Ankalaev's going for a takedown. These are things that I can see happening for sure. And I do pick it. I'm picking it's going to happen. So what I see happening is, also look at Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz. He was getting his legs cooked in that fight. I think Walker's just going to attack those viciously. Walker's got a much longer reach than Blachowicz. Blachowicz better striker, of course, but I can see him, like, he caught Smith with a big check hook as he came in. I can see him really just causing problems for Ankalaev with the distance. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, how do I get this distance in? He gets frustrated, comes in with a big shot, and just gets cracked. That's what I can see happening in this fight. So I'm going to go with Johnny Walker by, what do I go with? Round 2. I'm going to go round 2 TKO. Hammer fists while Johnny... So he's going to hurt Ankalaev with like a hook. Ankalaev's going to shoot him for a takedown. And he's going to hammer fist him away as Ankalaev's trying to attack a desperate single leg. That's what I see happening. I'm picking Johnny Walker by KO. We move on to the co-main event. Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman. This is massive. Obviously, fight rescheduled. Also, adjusted. The top 2 fights, obviously, we had fallouts with Oliveira and Costa. And now we got new guys stepping in. And I'm going to be picking Khamzat Chimaev to smoke Kamaru Usman. That's my big call for this fight. I think a lot of people are saying, like, oh, look how good Usman, like, he doesn't get taken down, all of that. Khamzat didn't do well against Burns. Like, yeah, I get all of it. But up at welterweight, I think Khamzat's been bulking up. He's going to be so much stronger. He's not going to be depleted making the weight. Usman coming in on short notice. He's obviously in shape. We know that. But coming off that Leon fight, I think that's only going to be negative damage that he's going to have taken. I think, look at all the amount of shots he took to the legs, the amount of body kicks and stuff. The fact that he has been now knocked out, I think his chin will obviously be refreshed up at 185. So I definitely can see him taking a shot better. But I think Khamzat's just like a powerhouse, and I think he's going to walk towards him and cut off the cage, use the reach advantage, and just give Kamaru Usman problems. I also think in the grappling, Khamzat can definitely have some success. If you look at the Leon Edwards second fight, Leon tripped out Kamaru Usman with like an inside trip from the body lock in the clinch. I can see Khamzat doing a similar thing. Khamzat attacks a lot of his takedowns off the body lock. He often shoots into the legs and then kind of just rises up into a body lock, and that's where he gets a lot of his takedowns from. So I can definitely see Khamzat attacking a similar sort of thing here. And I think if he gets Usman down compared to Leon, it's just going to be trouble. I don't see Usman, like, look at Usman. He didn't get up when Leon took him down. Leon had his back for like 3 minutes, or 2 minutes. I can see a similar thing happening here with Khamzat. I think if he gets him down, Usman's lack of jiu-jitsu and his only like wrestling in his grappling sort of is just going to cost him, and it's going to be problems. Khamzat, like against Li Jingliang, against Gilbert Burns even, like, Burns has the defensive jiu-jitsu threat, which Usman doesn't. Usman is not going to shoot up triangles, he's not going to threaten armbars, he's not going to use all these sweeps. Usman's not going to have the same level as guard and ability to get up and cause issues for Khamzat when the fight's on the ground. But I think that's definitely what Khamzat's going to attack here. But ultimately, I think the threat of the takedown is going to cause Usman problems, because I think he's going to be thinking about the takedown. He's going to be worried about it. He's going to be trying to stuff takedowns. I think Khamzat is going to shoot pretty early in like the first 30 seconds of this fight. Probably going to get stuffed, but he's going to, or maybe he gets him down to a knee and then he gets back up, and that's going to really put it in Usman's mind, like, this guy can take me down. 3 rounds as well. Cardio advantage, obviously, with Usman, but short notice, who knows if he's going to be able to push as much of a pace. Khamzat, he could have easily beaten Burns. Like, he was winning clearly when he was just sticking behind the jab and not being reckless, and then he started to get reckless, and that's when he got cracked. Obviously, if Usman cracks Khamzat, he can put him away for sure, but I just don't see it going well for Usman. I just don't see this going up a weight class and going well. He was a perfect sized 170er. Look, he's going to be more like comfortable at 185 as well, obviously. Going to be a bit more powerful. Probably not as quick, though. Cardio might be like a little bit hindered, but ultimately, I got to go with Khamzat. I see him pushing forward. I see him cutting off the cage, pressuring Usman backwards, shooting a few takedowns, throwing out the jab, throwing out some heavy leg kicks. He's got really solid leg kicks, Khamzat Chimaev does. And it's just going to cause Usman problems. And eventually I can see Khamzat cracking him with like a right hand or a left, like a right cross or a left hook, or maybe wobbling with the jab. And I think he's going to follow him up, and I think he's going to finish him with ground and pound to make a statement. Look, club and sub, possible. Khamzat shooting a takedown, getting the back, going, or like getting a dominant position, getting like a dash choke, also pretty likely. I do think Khamzat is going to get a finish in this fight. Make a big statement, call for a title shot, and I don't think that he's going to get denied. I think if he comes out here, doesn't take a lot of damage, and just puts a dominant display on Kamaru Usman, he's got to get a title shot, and I think that's what he's going to be looking to do. Khamzat Chimaev, round 2 KO is my call. We move on. Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. The main event, the switch-up, the rematch, all of it. Incredible fight. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Look, this prediction, it's tough because logically you have to go Islam. Like, there's just no reason to pick Volk based on the advantages that Islam is now going to have, like a longer time to rehydrate. He's got all this Abu Dhabi bullshit. He can fucking do all his IV and shit. Like, all of that. Not in enemy territory. Been in training camp. All of these advantages go for Islam. But it's Volk, man. Like, less time to prepare as well. But the same goes. So, I'm going to be picking Alexander Volkanovski to win this fight by 3rd or 4th round TKO. That's going to be my call here. So, let's talk about Volk. He had that surgery in July. He had that fight with Yaha where he looked phenomenal, by the way. In that Yaha fight, he looked fucking incredible. Like, that's some of the best I've seen, like, Volk look. The takedowns were on point. The striking even was great. Defensively, he was doing pretty solid. 3rd round, Yaha had a few moments, but he was doing great overall in that fight, Volkanovski. And got the surgery though, and he was kind of semi-booked to fight Ilya Topuria in January in Canada, headline the pay-per-view, and he was going to have time to recover and all of that, and have a camp for Ilya, all of that stuff. But now he's stepping in here, short notice, 10 days. But I think this short notice actually favours Volk, because Islam not going to have time to have fixed the issues that he was going for. Also preparing for a completely different style. He was probably working all of like the counter striking and stuff. He was probably working like the trips, the inside, like stuff that's different and going to work for Oliveira, but not for Volkanovski. But Volk, I think he's been training. I assume he's been training. He talks like he's pretty confident, so I'm going to back him. And I think he's going to just be more prepared and more across the mistakes as of right now. I think he's probably been working. And the thing is, I think the first fight, everything I think favoured Islam, in that fight, because it's like he comes in, he's got the advantage in terms of like he's confident. He goes in there, he thinks he can take him down. He's working a big striking camp, so he's like done all that. Volk felt a little bit like uncomfortable. He wasn't pushing the pace as much as he normally does, all of that kind of stuff. And now he does. Now he's like, I can get up. And even if he can't get up this time, he goes in with the mentality that he can, which I think he means he's going to be more confident on the feet. Also, the fact that he hasn't had all that time bulking up, I think he's actually going to do better with the speed, and I think his striking is going to be above Makhachev's this time. I think he's going to pick him apart on the feet. I think he's going to look a lot better on the feet, to be honest. I think in that first fight, which I attended live, by the way, I was there in Perth for UFC 284. It was fucking sick. But in that fight, like, you could kind of tell Volk, he overextended on punches, which he doesn't normally do. Like, he was probably having a bit of trouble with the reach, which is still going to stand. But I think he's across the striking holes a lot more now. And I think he's going to come out and look a whole lot better in the striking. And just dominate Islam Makhachev in the shot. Well, not dominate, but I think he's not going to overextend himself. He's going to be quicker to the punch, which last time Islam was actually like having a lot of success with the counters, which I don't think is going to hold up this time. I think Volk's going to be less like counterable. I think his defense is going to be more on point. I think last time Volkanovski spent like literally all of his time grappling, and I think Islam spent a lot of his time striking. This time, Islam's probably been spending about 50-50 for Oliveira. Probably a similar thing to what he did last time, probably attacking those kind of counter hooks and stuff like he did against Oliveira. Not shooting takedowns like against Oliveira, he doesn't shoot takedowns. He like goes for like trips and stuff because he doesn't want to get caught in the guillotine. So I think he's going to do a similar thing here. I think he's not going to be he's not going to be shooting doubles as much. He's not going to have been drilling the same takedowns that he would have been going into the first Volkanovski fight. And I just think Volk's going to be really quick on the feet, and I think he's going to be catching him and cracking him with shots. I think even though he's probably got more brute power up at 155, like when he's got that extra size on, I think he's going to have a bit more pop and a bit more quickness on his shots and the ability to put more combinations together. He's going to attack the leg kick to great effect. I do think that's going to be a thing here. He's going to chop the fuck out of his legs early. And I think he's just going to be able to be across the striking a little bit more. Islam's obviously, he was previously going in against like an offensive forward, like teep kind of Muay Thai fighter in Oliveira. Now going to like a kickboxer in Volk. I just don't know how across it is going to be or how confident he's going to be with these changes. So I think Volkanovski is going to be quicker than him. I think he's going to be more ready. And I think he's just going to catch him with a couple of big shots. I think he's going to put combinations together and he's going to have Islam flustered. And I think sometime in the third or fourth round, Islam might shoot a takedown. He might get stuffed. He's going to shoot a bad takedown. It's going to get stuffed. And then shortly after, Volkanovski is going to crack him and land a big shot. Islam's going to panic. He's going to shoot a takedown again. Volkanovski's going to sprawl it, start landing ground and pound. Islam's going to bail the takedown to his back. He's going to freak out, go to his back, and Volkanovski's going to just unload that ground and pound. I think Volkanovski also, with the Yaha fight, his offensive wrestling, sensational. I think he's going to even maybe push a few offensive takedowns. I think counter a few of the kicks of Islam, maybe to get a few takedowns there. But I think he's just going to be across it, and I think he's going to show up in style and produce like a sort of like an I'm him performance. And just it's going to be weirdly dominant, and it's going to be like, how the fuck is he doing this? So I'm picking Volk. I'm going to go with a fourth rounds TKO. I'm going to go with a big right hand cracking Makhachev, putting him down, and a ground and pounds to follow it up. Volkanovski becomes the lightweight champion, double champion, and solidifies pound for pound and like top 3 all-time status. That's the ideal world. That's what we're hoping for. We pray for Volk. We want him to win. And that's my prediction for the fight. That's the video, guys. Pretty long video, just under like 35 minutes odd for these picks. I wanted to go into a bit more detail. Pay-per-views, I know the last 2 fight nights I've done like 10-minute videos, quick picks. Like, I just can't. I think that's more suited as well, though. I think for the pay-per-views, it's good to really talk about the matchups. Good to kind of go off the vibes a little bit more, you know. So, obviously, my picks, I'm picking Magomedov, I'm picking Dudakova, I'm picking Nathaniel Wood, I'm picking Jubli, Dumas, Basharat, Peak, Mokaev, Nurmagomedov, oh my god, Aliskerov, Walker, Chimaev, and Volkanovski. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.